told us over and over again that understanding the impact that the digital world has had on your daughter is a top priority for you. So this evening is an opportunity to talk about these issues and to share strategies. And really, there is no simple answer here, because I think we all would agree that smartphone technology is a seismic shift in our world, and we're all trying to catch up and to figure out what is best both for ourselves and for our children. Rather than resisting technology, adults should help youth develop the skills and perspective to productively navigate the complications brought about by living in a networked world.
It's a mystery to us when we observe our children as to what they're doing. And the fact is, they're doing a lot of things at the same time with this device. It's highly adaptable. It's changing very, very rapidly. So how do we equip the kids and ourselves? So I started looking at it as three components. We heard about the really important social emotional learning skills. There's awareness, which will be part of what we talk about tonight, and there's limits. So when we talk about these different apps, and I can see it on some of your faces, it's like, well, what do we do, right? So let's talk a little bit about what we can do technically. I'll start off by saying that there is no right answer, and the reason for that is twofold. One, it depends on the child. So every child is a unique circumstance, it's a unique individual. And so that has to factor in. And the second part is our parenting styles. So we all parent differently. So I'm going to give you a spectrum of tools to think about. When you look at what can be done, it's really a range. So it can be low tech and high tech. We'll look at that. It can be very simple things to much more complicated. There are lots of free things that you can do, and there are paid services or paid products that you can get. And the last one's important because some of it can be very intrusive, which again may work very well for certain situations, and some are more passive. So I've always looked for ways to build conversation with the kids, my own kids, and to build trust.
What I'm struggling with when you're talking about the biggest issue is the monitoring, the trust issue, the conversation, how like we're gonna go home now. We wanna be trusting of you, but there's a world out there, and I don't wanna be constantly checking every little thing and knowing that I'm checking every little thing. And so that's, I don't know the answer to that. And it seems like it can get very intrusive. And I just don't know where the balance is.
This is why I like the ability just to set some broad limits. To say, the other tool that we looked, that was on one of the slides, so that we looked at the circle in detail, but the other one called Unglue, it's not as granular. You just get to say, listen, you get 3 hours of entertainment time, and you put a bunch of apps in that kind of bucket and say, you're a kid, go and entertain yourself, have fun. But after 3 hours, it's done. And I think that's not all that different than when I was young. My mother would say, 1 hour of TV for every 2 hours that you've read. And she would track that. And she would say, tell me a little bit about this. So I think that we've got that ability with some of the tools to not be so intrusive. That's my personal opinion. In some families, though, that level of intrusiveness is needed.
There is no doubt that social media has changed the way we, as teens, interact with each other. While I do recognize many of the benefits of being on social media, like increased connectivity, I also acknowledge the various consequences associated with increased social media dependence. We believe one way to mitigate some of the consequences is to engage in open conversation and dialogue with your daughter regarding reflecting on their impact of the impact of their actions. Although their intentions might be good, is it really necessary to post, and how will it affect the people seeing it? Does it promote inclusivity? We encourage you to ask these questions.
A great way to start this conversation is to come from a place of curiosity. So perhaps you can ask your daughter to help you set up an Instagram account and teach you about the features.